A billionaire CEO, faked my own bankruptcy to dodge an arranged marriage, hiding out in a dingy apartment and pretending to be broke. Who knew I'd run into a landlady obsessed with money, hounding me for rent with deadly precision? Our daily lives were like a spy thriller. Me hiding my wealth, her sniffing out cash. To escape the 108th blind date my family had set up, Ethan Miller, went all out. I crafted a tragic persona. Ambitious young entrepreneur, failed spectacularly, millions in debt. And my landlady, Jessica Ramirez, Jess, as she insisted, was a woman so stingy it bordered on criminal. Her greatest joy was figuring out how to squeeze a few extra bucks from me, her resident deadbeat. Little did she know, the shared bikes parked downstairs were from my family's company. My goal was simple: coast for 3 months, let the dust settle, then go home and inherit the family fortune. But I never imagined that my supposed poverty would lead to her business loan being rejected, threatening to shut down her little flower shop, her pride and joy. Ethan Miller, when are you paying this month's rent? Jess, just a couple more days. Gotta finish this delivery run. Ethan, did you seriously use my Wi-Fi to download movies again? No, absolutely not. You're mistaken. Those were educational documentaries. Ethan Miller, let's get married. Huh. Jess, I know I'm behind on rent, but you don't have to marry me for it, do you? Wait, if we get married, I don't have to pay rent. My name is Ethan Miller, 28, male. On the surface, I'm a debt-ridden delivery guy/odd job man, barely scraping by. In reality, I'm the sole heir to Miller Industries, with personal assets roughly equivalent to a small country's GDP. Right now, I was facing one of the biggest crises of my life. Ethan Miller, open up. I know you're in there. Don't play dead with me. The door vibrated with a pounding that sounded straight out of a crime drama, accompanied by a sharp, furious female voice. All it lacked was a shout of, "Drop your weapons, you're surrounded." I was curled on the couch, cuddling Muffin, my orange tabby. Both of us, man and cat, yawned in perfect sync. Meow. Muffin looked up at me, innocent blue eyes wide. I whispered, "Muffin, stay quiet. This is strategic concealment. Remember, we don't exist. We're just air." The woman outside was my landlady, Jess. A woman who had the word frugal etched into her DNA, capable of squeezing blood from a turnip. And I was already 2 weeks behind on her rent. Ethan Miller, I'm counting to 3. If you don't open this door, I'm cutting your power, unplugging your internet, and dumping all your fat cat's food in the trash. My heart ceased. No power? Fine. No internet? Bearable. But touch Muffin's food? Absolutely not. Muffin was my only source of comfort since I'd exiled myself from my CEO's chair. I practically leaped off the sofa, springing to the door with lightning speed. I took a deep breath, and my face instantly morphed into a weary mask of a man broken by life's hardships. With a creak, I opened the door, just a crack, peeking out half my head. My hair was a bird's nest, my pajama a collar askew, and I had dark circles under my eyes that could rival a raccoon's. Jess. My voice was hoarse, thick with the lingering haze of an imagined hangover. So early? I just laid down barely 3 hours ago after working a late-night rideshare shift. Jess stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Her short hair was practical, her white t-shirt and jeans simple, and her canvas sneakers looked well-loved and faded. She was striking in a clean, no-fuss way, with a bare face and delicate features. But her pretty eyes were currently burning with a fiery inferno of rent. She scanned me from head to toe, her gaze like an X-ray machine. Finally, it settled on my face, and she sneered. "Ethan Miller, your acting skills are wasted here. You should be in film school. Cut the dramatics. Rent, $1,800, not a penny less." I leaned against the doorframe, my body trembling slightly, portraying a man on the verge of collapse. "Jess, you see my situation. Delivery gigs are slow lately, and ride shares are cracking down. I'm just completely out of cash flow. Can you give me 1 more week? Just 1 week, please." Jess narrowed her eyes. "You said the same thing last week. This time it's for real. Look," I gestured inside. A row of empty instant ramen cups sat on the table. I've been living on ramen for a week straight. To make it more believable, I hadn't even thrown out the trash. Jess's gaze swept past me to the artistic display of ramen cups. Her eyebrows rose. Noodle King's beef ramen? Can't you guys ever try a different flavor? Like seafood? Or spicy kimchi? I blinked. Huh, never mind. She waved a hand, clearly sidetracked. The point is, you think a few empty ramen cups will convince me? Ethan Miller, I'm telling you, based on my observations, you are highly suspicious. My heart lurched. Exposed? No way. My plan to escape my family was foolproof. I'd switched to a cheap flip phone, locked away all my bank cards, and only brought $3,000 in cash. I even bought underwear from a discount store. My global limited edition Bugatti Chiron was gathering dust in an underground garage 3 boroughs away. To truly experience life, I'd even gotten a subway card. In this getup, not even my own father would recognize me. He'd probably just hesitate for 3 seconds and ask, "Kid, need a handout?" Suspicious of what? I asked, feigning calm. Jess poked my chest with a finger. "You're faking being broke." I felt my heart skip a beat. "First," she began her Sherlock Holmes deduction, "even though your clothes are shabby, you smell really good. Not like laundry detergent, not cologne. It's faint, like clean cotton that's just been sun-dried, mixed with a hint of fresh wood. A man who can barely afford food doesn't have money for expensive scents." I froze. That was a custom fragrance, blended by the world's top perfumer, using rare plants from the Alps, rumored to have calming properties. I'd habitually spritzed it on my pajamas when I left, and forgotten to change. "Second," she held up a second finger, "this cat of yours. You say it's a stray you picked up, but its fur is glossy, its body plump, and its eyes have an air of you peasants are beneath me nobility." I looked it up. That's a ragdoll with papers. One of those costs at least $5,000. You call that a stray? Muffin in my arms let out a perfectly timed meow. The sound was soft, with a hint of lazy pride. I wanted to cover its mouth. This wasn't my cat. This was Jess's spy. Third, and most important, Jess's eyes sharpened. Even though you constantly cry poor, I've never seen genuine sorrow or despair on your face. Your eyes, lazy as they are too clear. Someone truly on the brink of ruin wouldn't have that kind of light in their eyes. I was speechless. I was screwed. My carefully constructed facade of poverty had been shattered like glass under Jess's CT scan-level observation. My brain raced, trying to formulate a response. Should I confess, "You're right, I'm a billionaire," slumming it, and get kicked out as a lunatic? Or stubbornly deny it, claim the scent was a limited edition discount cologne, the cat a mutated stray, and my clear eyes were due to my naturally optimistic nature? Just as I decided on the latter, Jess shifted gears. "Therefore," I've concluded, she looked at me with extreme seriousness, delivering her final verdict. "You, Ethan Miller, must be a kept man, paid for by some rich lady." My thoughts. This plot twist was a little off from my expectations. You're from a fallen family, or maybe you're just a pretty face with no brains, and some rich older woman took a liking to you. She gives you money, but doesn't want you to get too arrogant, so she controls your spending. The scent on you is hers. The cat is a gift from her you can't sell. You live in this dump to create a false impression of, even though I'm kept, I maintain my independence and purity, hoping she'll pity you and give you more money. Jess grew more animated, as if she'd already imagined an 80-episode urban romance drama. I opened my mouth, unsure where to even begin rebutting. Her imagination was wilder than my company's new project pitch. Looking at her eyes, which screamed, "I've seen through everything," I, against my better judgment, chose to concede. "Jess, you knew all along." I lowered my head, my acting skills kicking back in, my voice tinged with shame and helplessness at being exposed. Just the Sherlock Holmes wore an "I knew it" expression. She patted my shoulder, saying sagely, "Look, Ethan, I've been around the block, I get it. It's best to rely on yourself. But that's separate from your rent." She switched back to rent collector mode. "Tell your rich lady friend the landlady is hounding you, and you'll be homeless if you don't pay up. She's so fond of you, she'll definitely send you the money. Go on, I'll wait here." Me? Well, I dug this hole. Now I had to fill it, even if I cried doing it. I sighed, pulling out my flip phone, pretending to compose a text. "Jess, I'll try, but she's been in a bad mood lately, so am I." Ding! Just then, my $99 flip phone rang at the most inopportune moment. It was a text. Jess, sharp-eyed, immediately leaned in. "Is that your rich lady friend, texting back. 1,000 expletives raced through my mind. No one had this number except my long-suffering assistant. What could he possibly be texting now? I nervously opened the message. Sender, Liam Thompson, my bane. Content, boss, day 15 of your self-imposed exile. Missing you. The old man has put out a reward. 1% of the company's shares for whoever finds you and convinces you to come home and marry. The private investigators in all of NYC are going wild. The address of that rundown dump you're hiding in, I don't think it'll hold out much longer. Also, the acquisition of Everbloom Florals, your landlady, Ms. Ramirez's shop, is complete as you instructed. Acquisition price, $100 million. Boss, I don't think you experiencing life. I think you're undercover and paying for love. My hand trembled. $100 million? For Jess's little flower shop, barely 10 square feet, turning a profit of less than $3,000 a month? Liam, that spendthrift idiot. I told him to reach out to see if there was potential for partnership, not to just throw money at it. Jess's head was very close. Her scent, a mix of morning dew and the unique botanical aroma of her flower shop, made me flustered. Oh, that's a long one. What does it say? She asked curiously. Snap. I flipped my phone shut and shoved it into my pocket at lightning speed. I plastered on a smile that was uglier than a grimace. Nothing, just spam. Says I won the lottery, first prize, a Ferrari. Jess looked at me as if I were an idiot. You believe that? Of course not. I declared, indignant. Don't worry, Jess. I'm not some lazy dreamer. I'm going to contact my, sister. The rent? You'll have it by the end of today. I practically pushed Jess out the door. The moment I closed it, I leaned against the door, letting out a long sigh. Muffin patted my face with a tiny paw. Meow, you're screwed. I held him, wanting to cry. He was right. I was screwed. Not only did I have to deal with a landlady whose imagination knew no bounds, but I also had to evade a horde of private investigators desperate for 1% of my company. My cursed, elusive slacker life. Why was it so complicated? To scrounge up that $1,800 for rent, and to uphold my glorious image as a kept man, I grudgingly called my long-suffering assistant, Liam. The moment he picked up, his wailing reached me. Boss, you finally called. If you didn't show up soon, the old man was going to exile me to Africa to dig for diamonds. Shut up, I said concisely. Transfer $2,000 to me. $2,000? Boss, are you buying a lollipop? Did you forget 1,000 or a million after that? Just 2,000 US dollars. I lower my voice, hiding in the bathroom, terrified Jess would overhear. Deposit it into this new account immediately. Boss, for a paltry 2,000, do you really need to personally ask? I could just wire it to you for less than that. Liam, I cut him off. Do you find the diamond mines of Africa particularly appealing? It's deposited, boss. He changed his tone instantly with alarming efficiency. Boss, about the acquisition of Ms. Ramirez's flower shop. Don't mention a word of it again. I warned him. The acquisition is paused. No, terminative. Return the money. And don't text me from that number again. Use a new one, disguised as spam. Got it. Understood, boss. Don't worry. Next time I'll pretend to be a Las Vegas casino, sexy dealers, live online poker. Me. Sometimes I truly wanted to open his head and see if it was filled with cotton candy. Hanging up, I stared at the $2,000 balance in my mobile banking app, a pang of regret in my chest. Ethan Miller, a veteran in the business world, when had I ever gone through so much trouble for a measly $2,000? But then I thought this was all part of experiencing life. Yes, it hurt, but it was also enjoyable. I strode out, chest puffed, and knocked on Jess's door. This time, it was my turn to be self-righteous. The door opened. Jess had just showered, her hair damp. She wore an oversized cartoon pajama set, emblazoned with a goofy Shiba Inu, a stark contrast to her usual sharp, capable demeanor. Here, I slapped $1,800 in cash into her palm, a flourish of a gesture, as if it weren't my entire month's living expenses, but a piece of scrap paper. Jess counted the money with practiced ease, her fingers flying like a bill counter. Once she confirmed the amount, the perpetual ice in her expression finally showed a tiny crack. Well, look at you, Ethan. Your rich lady friend is quite generous, huh? She tucked the money into her pocket, a teasing note in her voice. I puffed out my chest, chin slightly raised. Naturally, this face, after all, is worth something. Asshole. Jess rolled her eyes, turning to close the door. Hey, wait. I quickly stopped her. What now? Money's paid. You want me to give you 200 back? No. I pointed towards her kitchen, grinning cheekily. Jess, you see I'm at my wit's end here. Could I crash your lunch? I added pitifully. My ramen quota for the month is already way over budget. Jess's expression was priceless, as if I'd suggested something utterly outlandish. She stared at me for a full 10 seconds, long enough for me to think she'd grab a broom and chase me out. Then, she sighed, stepping aside. Come on in. Consider it payment for the 200. I beamed, practically skipping inside. Jess's apartment was a paradise compared to my dump. Though small, it was meticulously organized. Potted succulents I couldn't name lined the windowsill, and the air carried a faint floral scent. Sit wherever. She gestured to the small dining table, then disappeared into the kitchen. Soon, the clanging of pots and pans began. Curious, I sidled over, watching Jess, apron-clad, frown at a plate of bright green vegetables. Jess, are you performing alchemy? I cautiously asked, eyeing the dark, unidentifiable blob in the pan. Just look back at me, glaring. Can't you say something nice? This is garlic stir-fried greens. I watch her crush a whole head of garlic, toss it in the pan, then pour in half a bottle of soy sauce, my eye twitching. This wasn't garlic stir-fried greens. It was soy sauce braised garlic with a side of greens. I couldn't bear it anymore. If she kept this up, we'd both end up in the emergency room. Jess eyed me suspiciously. You can cook. A little, I said modestly. In reality, in college, I'd taken cooking classes to impress a food-loving senior. Though she ended up dating a muscular jock from the athletics department, I kept the skills. I excused Jess from the stove, expertly tied on the apron, lit the burner, heated the oil, added ingredients, stir-fried. A fluid series of movements that left Jess wide-eyed. Aren't you a kept man? How can you cook? She leaned against the kitchen doorframe, as if she'd discovered a new continent. I flipped the wok, not looking back. Even kept men need life skills. What if the rich lady friend gets upset and kicks me out? I'd starve, wouldn't I? It's called risk management. Jess nodded thoughtfully. Makes sense. In under 20 minutes, 3 dishes and a soup graced the table. Vibrant green stir-fried seasonal vegetables. Glistening cola-glazed chicken wings. Red and yellow scrambled eggs with tomatoes. And a bowl of light egg drop soup with a hint of nori. Jess stared at the spread, eyes wide. She picked up a chicken wing, cautiously put it in her mouth, chewed twice, and then her eyes lit up. Delicious, she mumbled, before devouring her food. Watching her cheeks bulge like a little hamster hoarding nuts, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction, of having provided. Slow down, no one's going to steal it, I said, serving her a bowl of soup. Ethan, I've decided, she announced solemnly, swallowing a large mouthful of rice. Decided what? From now on, your rent can be paid with cooking. 3 meals a day, worth $100. How's that? I nearly choked on my rice. Jess, that's daylight robbery. With my skills, I could be a head chef at a fancy restaurant, making at least 20 grand a month. And with you, 3 meals a day only gets me 100. Take it or leave it. Jess snatched the last chicken wing from my bowl. If not, you can go back to your Noodle King ramen. Me? I'll take it. When you're under someone's roof, you have to bow your head. Besides, cooking for rent and saving on groceries? What's not to like? I was a genius at saving money. That meal cemented my domestic role for the foreseeable future. Part-time chef. From that day on, my daily life became woken up by Jess's feed me calls, off to the market to buy groceries, back home to cook. Then she'd leave for her flower shop, and I'd sprawl on the couch with Muffin, watching TV until she returned for dinner. Occasionally, I'd even help out at her flower shop. Her shop, Everbloom Florals, was on a street corner, small but cozy. Jess had a natural affinity for flowers. No matter how difficult the variety, they'd flourish in her care. I asked her why someone who loved money so much would open a flower shop that clearly wasn't very profitable. She trimmed her rose stem, speaking softly. Because my mom loved them. She always used to say, when we had money, she'd open her own flower shop and just sit among the blooms, drinking tea all day. Her voice was light, carrying a faint, almost imperceptible wistfulness. What happened then? Then she got really sick. All our money went to her treatment, but it wasn't enough. Opening the shop is fulfilling her wish. I looked at her profile. Sunlight streamed through the window, bathing her in a soft glow. In that moment, I suddenly thought that this woman, who daily battled me over pennies, was actually quite charming. However, this cozy atmosphere didn't last long. One afternoon, I was helping her water a new batch of chamomile when the shop door burst open with a crash. Two burly men in black suits and sunglasses walked in, clearly up to no good. The leader, a man with a scarred face, scanned the shop, his gaze finally settling on Jess. "Ms. Ramirez, right? We're from Sterling Credit. That $100,000 business loan you applied for last month, our boss, Mr. Sterling, thinks your qualifications are a bit problematic." Jess's face instantly paled. She put down her scissors, trying to sound composed. I submitted all my documents. What's the problem?" The scarred man sneered, pulling a file from his jacket and slapping it on the table. "Big problem. We checked. You have a tenant in this apartment. Ethan Miller, right? This guy in the banking system is a high-risk individual deep in debt. How can we trust your repayment ability when you rent to a deadbeat like him?" He pointed at me, his eyes full of contempt. "Because of him, your loan was rejected, Mr. Sterling said, unless you can get him to move out immediately, or you find someone to co-sign for you right now." Jess swayed, her lips losing all color. I stood beside her, the watering can in my hand clanking as I clenched it. I never imagined that my fake bankruptcy, created to evade my family, would become the final straw that broke Jess. The scarred man and his cronies swaggered out, leaving behind a mess in Jess's ashen face. She slumped into a chair, staring blankly at the disheveled flowers, her eyes slowly reddening. I had never seen her like this. In my mind, Jess was always like a feisty little rooster, always ready to argue over a 50-cent price difference at the market, never showing fear. But now, she was like a butterfly with rain-soaked wings, so fragile it broke my heart. "I'm sorry," I walked over, my voice dry. I knew those 3 words were hollow, useless, but I had to say them. "Just didn't look at me." She sniffled, roughly wiped her face with the back of her hand, and forced a smile that was uglier than a grimace. "It's not your fault. It's my own. Incompetence." This small flower shop was her mother's dying wish, her entire effort and hope. That loan was her lifeline, meant to expand the business and bring in new varieties. Now it was all gone, and I was the instigator of it all. My heart felt heavy, blocked by a giant stone, stifled and painful. My damned fake identity, concocted for life experience, had brought so much trouble to an innocent, hard-working girl. "There's a way." I knelt, looking into her eyes, enunciating each word. "Trust me, there's always a way." Jess looked up, her red-rimmed eyes filled with confusion. "What way?" $100,000. Where am I going to find someone to co-sign? My parents are gone, and my relatives, they avoid me like the plague. I took a deep breath, making a decision that might permanently end my slacker life. "I'll figure it out." I stood up, walked outside the shop, and called Liam. This time, my voice lacked its usual laziness and sarcasm, replaced by an undeniable command. "Liam, immediately, right now, look up a company called Sterling Credit. I want all the information on their owner. Send it to me within 5 minutes." "Boss." Liam sounded startled by my cold tone. "What happened?" "No time for chatter, just do it." Hanging up, I watched the bustling crowds on the street, and for the first time, I felt that money and power weren't entirely useless. Less than 5 minutes later, Liam's intel came through. Sterling Credit, owner Victor Sterling, started out with predatory lending, has shady past with multiple cases of aggressive debt collection. He was currently trying to rebrand, hoping to partner with one of Miller Industries' investment firms for venture capital. And the head of that investment firm was one of my most trusted executives. I sneered. "You picked the wrong fight." I typed a text on my flip phone and sent it to my executive. "Terminate all cooperation talks with Sterling Credit. Notify all partners that Miller Industries has blacklisted them permanently." After a moment, I added, "Tell him to personally deliver flowers to Everbloom Florals tomorrow morning to apologize to the owner, Ms. Ramirez." With that done, I deleted the texts and walked back into the shop. Jess was still sitting there like a spiritless statue. I walked over, helped her up, and said softly, "Jess, let's go home." She didn't resist, letting me lead her, following like a puppet. Back home, I didn't say anything, just quietly went into the kitchen and started cooking. I made her favorite cola-glazed chicken wings and specially brewed a warm pot of millet porridge. She sat at the dining table, silent. I placed the food in front of her. "Eat something." She picked up her chopsticks, took a piece of chicken wing, and as soon as it touched her lips, tears started to fall. She cried like a child, eating ravenously between sobs, as if swallowing all her grievances and unwillingness with the food. I didn't try to console her, just sat silently opposite her, passing her tissues, serving her more soup. In that moment, I had only one thought. I would never let anyone bully her again. The next morning, I was still asleep when Jess's scream startled me awake. I shot up, thinking something terrible had happened again, and rushed to her door without even putting on shoes. "Jess, what's wrong?" The door opened. Jess looked at me, utterly shocked, holding her phone. The screen displayed a bank transfer notification. "Ethan, I received a transfer." Her voice trembled. $100,000. The note says, "Loan approved." I understood immediately, but feigned surprise. "Really? That's amazing. See? I told you there'd be a way." Jess still couldn't believe it, checking multiple times before finally accepting the fact. She paced excitedly around the room, muttering, this is great, the flower shop is saved." Just then, the doorbell rang. Jess ran to open it. Standing at the door was a middle-aged man in a suit, sporting a receding hairline and a fawning smile, holding a ridiculously large bouquet of garish blue roses. It was Victor Sterling, the owner of Sterling Credit. "Excuse me, is this Ms. Ramirez?" Victor bowed obsequiously, acting like a deferential subordinate. Jess was stunned. "Who are you?" "I'm Victor Sterling from Sterling Credit." "Ms. Ramirez, my deepest apologies for yesterday. My staff were completely out of line. They misunderstood everything. We expedited your loan approval overnight. This small token, please accept it." He tried to hand her the blue roses. Jess instinctively stepped back, wary. What do you want?" Victor's face was dripping with cold sweat. "Ms. Ramirez, please don't misunderstand. I'm here to apologize. Every fault was mine. Please be magnanimous and don't hold it against me." His sudden switch from arrogant to groveling completely bewildered Jess. I hid behind the door, almost laughing out loud. Looks like my executive was quite efficient. Mr. Sterling," Jess began hesitantly. "I don't quite understand why." No reason at all," Victor rushed to say. "It's just that our company, after reevaluation, realized Ms. Ramirez is an excellent client. Excellent credit, huge potential. We are honored to serve you." His words left Jess utterly confused, but Victor's eagerness to practically kneel made her suspect something deeper was at play. She didn't take the flowers, merely saying coldly, "I see. You can go now." "Yes, ma'am." Victor looked like he'd been granted a reprieve. He dropped the flowers by the door and scurried off, as if a ghost were chasing him. Jess closed the door, looked at the gaudy blue roses, then at me, her eyes full of confusion. "Ethan, what on earth happened?" I scratched my head, launching into my next performance. "Well, Jess, remember my rich lady friend?" Jess's eyes widened. "It was her." I nodded gravely. "Yeah, yesterday. I had no choice but to ask her. She has a temper, but she's not bad-hearted. When she heard what happened to you, she took care of it." I spun the tale so convincingly, even I almost believed it. Jess looked at me, her expression complex. There was gratitude, sympathy, and a hint of an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. She's quite good to you," she murmured. "She's all right." I shrugged casually. After all, this face. All right, I get it, your face is worth money." Just cut me off, but couldn't suppress a small smile. The gloom seemed to have lifted. She looked at me, then said earnestly, "Ethan, thank you. I won't forget this. I'll definitely repay you." I waved a hand. "Hey, it's nothing. Besides, aren't you already paying me back with your cooking?" Just didn't say anything, just gave me a long, deep look. From that day on, I felt a subtle shift in our relationship. She no longer treated me like a thief, constantly on guard. Sometimes, if I was late with dinner, she wouldn't rush me. Instead, she'd quietly wash and chop the vegetables. If she got new, exotic flowers at her shop, she'd bring them home to show me first thing. And I, too, grew increasingly accustomed to this life. Every day, I'd argue with old ladies at the market over a dime for vegetables. Come home and cook her a delicious meal, watch her eat contentedly, then lie on the sofa with Muffin, listening to her tell funny stories from the flower shop. This calm, real sense of happiness was something I had never experienced in my 28 years of life. I even started to think that living like this forever seemed pretty good. However, my cursed slacker life was destined not to be smooth sailing. A month later, Jess received a call from her aunt back home. The message was simple. Her cousin was getting married, and Jess was expected to attend. Jess's face turned sour after hanging up. I asked her what was wrong, and after much hesitation, she told me. This aunt was her only remaining relative. But ever since her parents passed away, her aunt's family had avoided her like the plague, afraid she'd ask for money. This sudden invitation to the wedding, specifically asking her to bring a boyfriend, had an obvious motive: to show off their son-in-law to friends and family and subtly rub Jess's orphan status in her face. "I don't want to go," Jess said flatly. "I'll just be humiliated." I looked at her reddened eyes, a pang in my chest. "Go," I said. "Why wouldn't you go?" I stood up, walked to her, and took her shoulders. "Jess, you're not alone. You have me." Jess looked up, surprised. I looked into her eyes, enunciating each word. "I'll go with you. I'll be your boyfriend." 4. When I suggested being her fake boyfriend, Jess's first reaction wasn't gratitude, but a scrutinizing gaze that swept over me from head to toe. "You?" She raised an eyebrow. "Ethan Miller, I admit you're a great cook, and you're not bad-looking. But look at you. Your t-shirt's from a bargain basement, your pants are discount store finds, and those shoes. The soles are practically worn through. If you come with me, my aunt, and then we'll just make fun of me even more." I looked down at myself. She was right. My outfit perfectly encapsulated the urban broke millennial aesthetic. "An image can be changed," I said confidently. "Jess, did you forget my persona? I'm a man with a rich lady friend. Getting a new outfit is nothing." Jess looked skeptical. "Really? Your sister? Is that generous?" "Of course." I thumped my chest. "Don't worry. I'll make sure you're respected. They'll know our Jess isn't unwanted." "Who's Jess?" Her cheeks flushed, but her words were sharp. And so, for this hometown trip, I began my glamorous transformation plan. I called Liam again. "Boss, what's the next command? Do you need me to play a Las Vegas casino or a sexy dealer?" "Shut up," I said concisely. "Send over a suit. Keep it understated but high quality. No visible brands, but something that, to an expert, clearly costs a fortune. And a watch, same requirements. No logos, remember. Copy that." "Boss, are you going on a date?" "I'm going to your wedding with the African diamond mines." Liam's efficiency was top-notch. The next day, a delivery guy disguised as same-day express knocked on my door. Inside the box was a handmade, bespoke Italian suit, charcoal gray, cashmere, impeccably tailored. And a limited edition Patek Philippe watch, simple in its dial, yet exuding an ineffable luxury in its details. I changed into the suit, put on the watch, and checked myself in the mirror. The man in the mirror was tall, impeccably dressed, with an aura of effortless refinement and a hint of detachment in his eyes. The presence, cultivated from years in a position of power, was something no clothing could truly hide. I deliberately ruffled my perfectly styled hair a bit, unbuttoned the top 2 buttons of my shirt, tried to appear more approachable. When I walked out of the room, Jess, who was watching TV in the living room, dropped her potato chips with a snap. She stared at me, unblinking, as if she didn't recognize me. Ethan," she ventured. I smiled at her, deliberately lowering my voice to make it sound more resonant. "Jess, this outfit, is it all right?" "More than all right," she murmured. Are you really the Ethan who constantly fights me for the remote and steals my snacks?" I walked to her, bent down, and met her gaze. "No doubt about it. Now, do you believe I can impress them?" Her face immediately flushed crimson. She averted her eyes, unable to look at me. It's acceptable," she insisted, though her ears were so red they looked ready to bleed. The day we left, Jess also made an effort to dress up. She wore a light yellow dress and light makeup, looking gentle and bright, like a blooming sunflower. We boarded the high-speed train to her hometown. All the way there, Jess was visibly nervous, her palms sweating. I held her hand. It was cold. "Don't be afraid," I said. "I've got you." She looked up at me, the panic in her eyes slowly replaced by reassurance. She squeezed my hand back and nodded. Jess's aunt lived in a smaller city a few hours away. The wedding was held at the most upscale local hotel. The moment we arrived, we saw her aunt's family greeting guests by the entrance. Her aunt was a plump, middle-aged woman with thick makeup. The moment she saw Jess, she hollered, "Oh, Jess is here. I thought you were too busy and wouldn't grace us with your presence." Beside her stood a flashy young woman, who must have been Jess's cousin, Tiffany. Next to Tiffany was a man with a thick gold chain and a beer belly, undoubtedly the groom. Jess's face paled, but she bravely stepped forward. "Aunt Carol, Tiffany, congratulations." Her aunt's gaze skipped right over her, landing on me, full of scrutiny and disdain. "And this is your boyfriend?" she said snidely. "He looks quite energetic. Where do you work?" Before I could reply, Tiffany chimed in, "Mom, look at what he's wearing. No brand labels anywhere. He's probably just a regular office worker." "Jess, no offense, but your taste is really lacking. Look at my husband. He's in construction, owns his own company, makes 7 figures a year." She proudly linked her arm through her husband's. The surrounding relatives began to whisper, their eyes filled with pity and disdain as they looked at us. Jess's body trembled slightly, her fingernails almost digging into my palm. I gently squeezed her hand to reassure her, then stepped forward, smiling at her aunt. "Aunt Carol, nice to meet you. I'm Ethan Miller, and yes, I'm just a regular office worker," I said, my tone polite and unfazed. Her aunt's disdain deepened. "Oh, an office worker. How much do you make a month? On a house? A car?" The questions came like a machine gun. I maintained my smile. "I don't make much, just enough to get by. I have a house and a car, but they're in New York City. I didn't drive them down here." "A house in New York City? That's outrageously expensive." Tiffany shrieked. "Can you afford that? You must be renting, right?" Just then the groom, the gold chain guy, suddenly noticed my wrist. "Huh," he blurted, staring intently at my watch, his expression shifting from disdain to confusion, then shock, and finally disbelief. "You, that watch," he stammered, his voice trembling. "Is that a Patek Philippe 5270p?" My eyebrow raised. I hadn't expected this seemingly flashy guy to know his brands. "Yep, good eye," I calmly admitted. "Impossible," the gold chain guy exclaimed. "That watch is a limited edition worldwide. It costs at least $3 million. How could you possibly afford that?" His shout drew everyone's attention. The room fell silent. $3 million? For a watch. The relatives were stunned, their eyes shifting from disdain to startled suspicion. Jess was also bewildered. She looked down at the watch on my wrist, then up at me, her mouth agape. Aunt Carol and Tiffany's faces turned incredibly ugly. Honey, are you mistaken?" Tiffany stammered. "How could a poor office worker wear a $3 million watch? It must be fake. Yes, it has to be a knockoff." But the gold chain guy was still staring at the watch, cold sweat trickling down his face. He was in business, and to mingle in high society, he put in the effort to study luxury items. He was certain the craftsmanship, luster, and quality of that watch were absolutely not fake. I smiled, non-committal. I raised my wrist, pretending to check the time, allowing the watch to catch the light, reflecting a subtle, luxurious gleam. "It's getting late. Let's head inside," I said, putting an arm around Jess's shoulders, my tone casual, as if the $3 million watch was no different from the $300 dress shoes on my feet. Jess was still in shock, letting me lead her through the dumbfounded crowd into the banquet hall. The entire wedding reception took on a very strange atmosphere. The relatives who had earlier dismissed us now covertly eyed me with a mix of awe and curiosity. Aunt Carol and Tiffany were practically squirming in their seats, their smiles uglier than frowns. They tried to approach us several times to pry, but I gently deflected them with my "I'm just an ordinary guy" routine. The more nonchalant I was, the more mysterious they found me. Jess drifted through the banquet like a sleepwalking doll, mechanically eating her food, but her eyes kept darting to me, filled with confusion, shock, and a complex emotion I couldn't quite place. Halfway through the meal, I excused myself to the restroom. As I came out, I saw the gold chain guy waiting by the door. Mr. Miller. He spotted me, immediately bowing and offering a cigarette, his face plastered with a fawning smile. Mr. Miller, I was blind. Please, you're a big man. Don't hold my ignorance against me. I didn't take the cigarette, just looked at him calmly. Mr. Miller, who are you? Slumming it in our little town, he cautiously probed. I smiled. I told you, I'm just an ordinary person. You're joking, he rushed to say. Someone who can wear a 5270p. An ordinary person? Mr. Miller, look, I'm trying to expand my business into New York City. Could you point me in the right direction? I looked at his smarmy face, a wave of disgust washing over me. The path is at your feet. Walk it yourself, I said, and turned to leave. Back at the table, Jess immediately leaned in, whispering, Ethan, tell me the truth, that watch. What's going on with it? And that suit. $3 million, your rich lady friend. She's way too generous with you, isn't she? Her gaze had now upgraded from kept man to top-tier kept man for a super-rich lady. Watching her frustrated expression, I suddenly found it hilarious. Jess, I teased, are you jealous? Jealous of your big fat head? She blushed, pinching my arm. Spit it out, or I'll make you eat soy sauce with rice every day when we get home. I sighed, deciding to continue my script. All right, I confess. Actually, my sister, she's not keeping me. Then what is she? She's my half-sister, from a different father, I said with a somber expression. My parents passed away young. She raised me. She married a wealthy man, but she didn't want me to rely on her. She wanted me to be independent. So, she cut off my allowance and made me go out and experience life. This story, combining a tragic background, resilient character, and inspiring core, was practically perfect. Jess listened, wide-eyed, her gaze shifting from gossip to sympathy, finally softening into tenderness. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know you. It's fine, it's all in the past. I smiled bravely. So, the watch and suit? She lent them to me to make an impression. I have to return them when we get back. Jess said, oh, and didn't speak again, just quietly put a piece of my favorite braised pork into my bowl. The awkward wedding finally ended in a strangely harmonious atmosphere. On the train ride home, Jess was very quiet. Just before we arrived at our stop, she suddenly spoke. Ethan, if she looked out the window, her voice very soft. If one day you don't have to experience life anymore, would you go back to your sister? I looked at her profile, the setting sun softly illuminating it, her long eyelashes casting small shadows beneath her eyes. My heart, against my will, skipped a beat. No, I answered almost without thinking. She turned to me, surprised. I looked into her eyes and said earnestly, because there are better things here, like her stir-fried greens, which were terrible but full of her heartfelt effort, and a landlady named Jess Ramirez, who was a little stingy, a little easily provoked, but kinder and stronger than anyone. She froze, then slowly, a smile bloomed on her face, like ice melting, like spring arriving. Asshole, she murmured, but her lips were curved upwards. After returning from her hometown, the atmosphere between Jess and me grew even more subtle. That thin veil called landlord and tenant hadn't been completely torn, but it was practically transparent. I still cooked every day, and she still went to her flower shop. Only, she started coming home earlier and earlier, sometimes even skipping work, just to go grocery shopping with me. We were like the most ordinary couple in the city, arguing over whether a pound of greens cost $3.50 or $3.60, voting on whether to have pan-seared salmon or barbecue ribs for dinner, and playing rock, paper, scissors over who would do the dishes. These days were so peaceful, I almost forgot who I was. Until one day, I received urgent intel from Liam. This time, he was disguised as professional drain cleaning services. The text read, Boss, emergency. The old man has found your address. He's on his way now, with a whole entourage of bodyguards in his Rolls-Royce, charging towards you. Estimated arrival in 10 minutes. Please prepare for battle or evacuation immediately. I stare at the text, my brain freezing for 3 seconds. I was done for. My tranquil slacker life of 3 months was finally coming to an end. I immediately leaped off the sofa, pacing frantically around the room. What to do? Was it too late to run? But my luggage wasn't packed. Muffin's cat food wasn't packed. Most importantly, Jess was still at the flower shop, and I hadn't even said goodbye to her. No, I couldn't just leave like that. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. It was impossible to hide. My hot-headed father, once he made up his mind, nothing could stop him. Since that was the case, I'd face it head-on. I quickly rushed into my room, changed into my battle attire, the custom suit Liam had sent, and put on the Patek Philippe. Then, I walked out and knocked on the opposite door. No, that wasn't right. I should just use my key to open the door. I pulled out a key from my pocket, a spare I'd secretly made for Jess's place earlier. Opening the door, I walked straight to Jess, who was busy in the kitchen. She was humming, preparing dinner ingredients. From behind, I gently wrapped my arms around her. Jess's body stiffened, and the tomato in her hand rolled onto the floor with a soft plop. Ethan, what are you doing? Her voice held a hint of panic and shyness. Jess, I rested my chin on her shoulder, inhaling the pleasant scent of her shampoo. There's something I want to tell you. What is it? Let go of me first. She struggled a little, but her efforts were weak. Let's get married, I said. The air instantly went silent. Even the hum of the refrigerator compressor seemed unusually loud. Jess froze completely, as if a spell had been cast. After a long moment, she found her voice, stammering, Are you crazy? What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not crazy, and I'm not talking nonsense. My voice was soft, yet incredibly firm. Jessica Ramirez, I love you. Not as a fake boyfriend, but as Ethan Miller, loving Jessica Ramirez. I love that even though you're stingy, you secretly buy cat food for strays. I love that your cooking is terrible, but you try so hard. I love that you argue red-faced over 50 cents, and I love that you laugh like a child while holding flowers. I want to cook for you every day. I want to go grocery shopping with you. I want to invest in your flower shop in the future. I want to openly live in your home, not just across the hall. I said a lot in one breath. These words had been hidden in my heart for a long time. Jess didn't speak. I could feel her body trembling slightly. You have that sister, don't you? She mumbled. Aren't you going back to her? She's not my sister, I sighed. I made that up. Jess, I'm sorry, I've lied about a lot of things. My identity, my background. They're not what you see, but my feelings for you are the only truth. Ding dong. Just then, the doorbell rang. One ring after another, urgent and forceful, filled with impatience. Jess the Sherlock Holmes's radar instantly activated. She sharply turned, pulling free from my embrace, looking at me with alarm. Ethan Miller, is that your rich lady friend showing up? She whispered, sounding ready for confrontation. Me? Jess, your thought process is always so unique. It's not. Don't lie to me, she cut me off, her face screaming. I knew this would happen. Tell me, did she find out about us? Is she here to settle scores with me? Don't worry, Jessica Ramirez, am not easily intimidated. Even if I can't beat her, I can out-talk her. Watching her roll up her sleeves, ready for a fight, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The doorbell continued to ring relentlessly. Jess, let me explain. Explain what? What's there to explain? It's her, isn't it? I'm going to go meet her. Jess charged towards the door. I gasped, quickly rushing to stop her, holding onto the doorknob. Are you kidding me? The combat power of the person outside was terrifying, far worse than 10 rich lady friends combined. Jess, calm down. It's really not what you think. I clung to the doorknob. Let go. Ethan Miller, I'm telling you, even if you're a kept man, you're my kept man. Nobody is taking you from me. She was getting agitated, her face beat red. Hearing that, my heart warmed, and I almost couldn't stop myself from smiling. Bang, bang, bang. The person outside had clearly lost patience and started kicking the door. Ethan Miller, you little brat, get out here. A booming roar, full of vigor, penetrated the door, making my ears ring. That voice. Jess froze, looking at me suspiciously. That's a man. I closed my eyes in despair. What had to come had finally arrived. The door crashed open, roughly pushed in by a bodyguard in a black suit from the outside. An old man, over 60, with white hair but a sharp, spirited demeanor, leaning on a dragon-headed cane, walked in, flanked by a group of bodyguards. He scanned the small apartment, and then his piercing gaze locked onto me. "So, you little punk, think you're a big shot, huh? Daring to run away from home, and living in this dump. You've completely shamed the Miller name." The old man fumed, his mustache bristling, slamming his cane heavily onto the floor. Jess was utterly dumbfounded. She looked at me, then at the commanding presence of the old man, and the line of men in black behind him, her mouth wide enough to fit an egg. Ethan." She tugged at my sleeve, her voice trembling. Who is this gentleman?" I took a deep breath, adjusted my suit collar, then took Jess's hand and walked towards the old man. Under Jess's astonished gaze, I bowed slightly, introducing calmly, "Dad, I'd like you to meet someone. This is Jessica Ramirez, my fiancée, and also your daughter-in-law." The air once again solidified. "Jess, old man." "Liam," hiding behind a bodyguard. "Boss is the man." The old man almost dropped his cane. He pointed at me, then at Jess, his lips quivering for a long moment before he finally managed to blurt out, "You? What did you say?" I straightened up, shielding Jess behind me, meeting my father's murderous gaze, and repeated clearly, word for word. I said, "I'm going to marry her. No one else." My 3-month-long rebellious phase reached its peak at that moment, and my slacker life, in a way I had never anticipated, had found its grand finale, or rather, its new chapter, because I saw that Jess, protected behind me after the initial shock, quietly, with her other hand, pinched my waist. Then she leaned in, and in a voice only we two could hear, she hissed, "Ethan Miller, you still haven't paid this month's rent." I smiled. Looks like my future days were destined not to be boring. End.